Hi there and welcome to your yoga class. I'm Jackie and we're going to be doing a really special story today. That's right, we're going to be doing the BFG and you'll find out what that means in a wee second if you don't know already. So first of all, we always sing our song. So we're going to sit on our knees, pat our hands, and you can join in if you want, if you know the words. If not, just pat your hands. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Say hello and namaste, time for fun and yoga play. Am I ready? Yes, I am, sitting on my mat. Well done. And then next we get our little friend out called Om, and we have to shout on him after 3. So we go 1, 2, 3. That's right. And he's going to come out. He watches all our yoga, remember? And he comes out. He's really excited about today. Do you know why? Because the BFG is one of his favourite books and he's desperate to see how well we do with our yoga story. That's right. So he is going to lie on his mat there, keep his little eyes on us, and we're going to sit with our legs crossed. That's right. Hands at our heart. And we're going to say our magic yoga word so we can begin our adventure. And the magic yoga word is namaste. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Namaste. Lovely. So we are going to be doing the BFG today, which stands for Big, Friendly, Giant. So there's a lot of giants in this story, but the big friendly giant is the nicest one of all, and we'll find out all about the other giants in a little minute. And this is a story written by Roald Dahl, and he writes lots of awesome books for children. So let's get started. It starts our story with little Sophie. That's right. Now Sophie is a beautiful little girl and she lives in a home for orphans, and that means she's not got a mummy or daddy. So she lives in a home with lots of other little girls. So she's in her bed one night. We're going to lie in our beds to start with. We're going to lie down with our knees up and we're going to let our knees drop from side to side because Sophie can't sleep. No, she can't sleep. So she gets up out of her bed, that's it, and she tiptoes over to her window. Tiptoe, 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 tiptoe. That's right. Now we're going to open the curtains because it's very dark outside. So the curtains are shut, so put your hands together, bend over and open them up. That's it. So outside she can see it's really, really dark and the moon is in the sky as well. So let's stand up. We're going to do a half moon, a crescent moon. So hands up in the air, bend over to the side, just like the moon, and then come up. We need to do the other side as well. Let's do the other side. So she's having a look out the window and all is very, very quiet out in the street because it's very, very early in the morning and nobody's awake apart from a big shadow that Sophie can see. And this shadow is very, very, very big, about twice the size of your house, I would say. Let's reach up. Very big, and she thinks it looks like a man, and this man is carrying a suitcase and a trumpet. And so Sophie is a bit confused. So she sees this man tiptoe. Remember how we tiptoe? Tiptoe, tiptoe, tiptoe up to the window across the street. And do you know what he does? He takes his big trumpet, okay, and we're going to put our trumpets up to our mouths. Take a big breath in and then blow through your trumpet. Are you ready? That's it. Let's do one more. And so Sophie wonders to herself, what on earth is this big, very, very, very big man doing, blowing in through the windows? And all of a sudden, this man, very big man, spots Sophie and he comes over to the window and very gently lifts her up. So because remember, this is a very big man, he has to bend over to lift Sophie up. So let's bend over. That's it. Lift up. Pretend you've got a tiny wee Sophie in your hand. That's right. And then you're going to put Sophie in your pocket. That's right. So all of a sudden, Sophie is in this big person's pocket. And remember, it's very, very big person. And he's running. So we have to take big, giant running steps. So stand at the back of your mat. And we're going to stride forward with one foot and stride forward. Let's do one more on each side. Stride, that's right, because big people like giants don't run the same as us, do they? And over to the other side. So Sophie is a little bit frightened. Wouldn't you be a little bit frightened? But don't worry, because she sits in his pocket with her knees up to her chest because she is feeling a wee bit frightened, and she decides to take 3 deep breaths to calm herself down a little bit, okay? So we're going to breathe in through our nose and then out through our mouth. That's it, like a big sigh. And let's do 2 more. In through your mouth. That's it. And last one. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Well done. Don't you feel a little bit calmer already? So before they know it, they get to a big cave, and it's very, 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 very far away from Sophie's house. So let's do cave pose. Let's come and put our legs apart and put your hands up to the top. And when Sophie gets chatting to this giant, she realises he's called the Big Friendly Giant, and he's very, very, very nice, and he's got a lovely voice as well. He talks a bit like this to Sophie, and he's so nice and kind, and Sophie can't believe her luck. She thought she was maybe going to disappear forever, that's right. And he's got the biggest ears, hasn't he? He can hear lots of things, because that's how he knew Sophie was keeping a wee eye on him through the window. So let's take our fingers, our wee pinchy fingers, and we're going to rub our ears all the way up to the top and all the way down to the bottom, because the BFG ears are like big, big, big dinner plates. They're like very big dinner plates, and they can hear absolutely everything. So Sophie said, well, what were you doing in my street in the middle of the night? And the BFG says, I was giving all the little chidlers some dreams. And she was a bit confused, as you would be if you were Sophie. And she said, you're going to have to help me here, BFG. I don't really know what you mean. So he explains to Sophie, he says, I take my trumpet in my suitcase, and every night I is disappearing off to different places and all over the world, and I take my trumpet and blow in lovely dreams through the windows. And she thinks this is awfully strange, but awfully nice at the same time. And he shows her all the shelves full of dreams, and there's about 50,000 dreams on these shelves. So while Sophie's trying to get her head around this, all of a sudden they hear a big thumping noise. That's right, so we are going to make a big thumping noise. We're going to put our legs apart like this. We're going to hold onto our ankles, and we're going to thump one foot on the ground, and we're going to thump the other foot on the ground. Try and hold onto your ankles while you do it. A big thump and a big thump. That's right. And in through the door of the cave comes an even bigger giant. This is about 3 times the size of the BFG. So this is a tremendously big giant. So let's stretch up again. Let's make ourselves as tall as possible. And let's make ourselves very wide as well, because it's very, very big, this giant. And this giant is called the Flesh Lump Eater. And he talks a bit like this. He says to the BFG, what are you up to in here? And the BFG says, I don't know what you mean. I'm not up to anything. And so Sophie hides because she thinks this doesn't look like a very nice giant at all. So the Flesh Lump Eater thinks there's something going on here. He said, I can smell something in here. And he takes 3 sniffs with his nose. Are you ready? A bit like a bunny sniff. So take 3 more sniffs and then blow out through your mouth. He said, I think I can smell like a human being in here. Are you sure you've not got a visitor, Mr. BFG? And the BFG says, oh, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I've not got any food in here apart from a big snozcumber. So we know that the BFG eats snozcumbers. It's kind of like a very, very big cucumber. Let's come into snozcumber pose. So we have to lie on the mat, put your hands out in front of you, point your toes, and come into snozcumber pose. That's it. So that's what the BFG says. You know I don't eat anything but these snozcumbers. And so he offers the Flesh Lump Eater a nice bite of the snozcumber. And so that's what he does. The BFG takes his hands and he goes, hum. But what the BFG doesn't know is that Sophie's hiding inside the snozcumber, isn't she? So let's hide on our bottoms. Lift your knees up this time, and as if you're hiding inside the snozcumber. But luckily, snozcumbers taste disgusting. Think of the most disgusting thing you can eat, and snozcumbers are 10 times as disgusting as that. So the Flesh Lump Eater goes, oh, and blows it out. So we're going to do a big and blow the snozcumber out. And with the snozcumber, luckily, comes Sophie. She was inside the big giant's mouth. And so the flesh lump eater isn't pleased and he disappears. And Sophie says to the BFG, who on earth was that? And the BFG says, oh, he's a nasty giant. There's 9 giants. Can we do 9 fingers? 9 giants who are horrible. I'm a nice giant and they're all nasty. They eat human beings all the time. Giants that eat people? Surely not. And so they go and take a little peek out the cave. Let's get our little yoga binoculars, remember? Peek outside the cave and look right and look left, and all they can see is the 9 giants now all sleeping in the midday sun, and they're very, very big. They look very, very horrible, and they're very, very smelly as well. And the BFG explains that they go away every night and go and eat human beings from every part of the country. And Sophie says to the BFG, I'm feeling quite thirsty. Have you got a little drink there? And the BFG says, I got just the thing. So he goes over to his shelves and he picks up a lovely big bottle. And remember, it's a giant's bottle, so it's pretty big. So let's put our legs apart, turn your foot out, bend your knee, and we're going to reach for the bottle. Are you ready? Reach the bottle, and let's do the other side, because we always have to do both sides in yoga. Let's put the other foot out, bend the knee, and reach for the bottle. Now, do we know what this stuff is called? It's called frobscottle, isn't it? So, keeping your legs apart, you're going to raise your bottle up and go ugh, 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 and drink the frobscottle. Now, for those of you that know the BFG story, you'll know what happens when you drink the frobscottle. But for those of you that don't, I will show you. Frobscottle tastes absolutely amazing, but the bubbles go down instead of going up. Now, what could happen when bubbles go down the way instead of up? I wonder. So we're going to sit on our knees, put our hands just above our bottoms there. We're going to look up to the ceiling, and I'm going to show you what frobscottle makes you do. It makes you whiz pop. Now, I'm sure none of you ever whiz pop, but when you drink frobscottle, it's going to make you whiz pop. So Sophie was a bit shocked, but the frobscottle did taste very nice indeed. But she was very upset that the other giants were going and eating all these other human beings every single night. She said, that's terrible. What could we do about this, do you think? So they come up with a plan. So let's sit with your legs out. She says to the BFG, well, because you get all these dreams, why can't we make a dream a terrible dream, and we can maybe stop these big giants eating everybody every night? So the BFG scratches his head and says, oh, I don't know what you mean. But Sophie says, you get your big dream pot out, which is what we've got here, and I'll tell you what to put in. So she has her hands out to the front, just like this, and we reach round, and we're going to select our dreams for our big, big dream that you'll find out what we're going to do with in a wee minute. So she comes round and she says, okay, could you put in the 9 big giants into the dream? So let's put the 9 big giants into the dream. Turn round, she said, oh, you need to put Sophie, me, into the dream as well. So let's put Sophie into the dream. And the horrible bit is we need to put when the giants eat the human beings into the dream as well. So let's turn round and put that into the dream. That's right. Now, she said, BFG, you need to put the Queen of England into the dream as well. So let's put her hand out, turn to the side, and let's put the Queen in the dream. I wonder why the Queen's there. That's it. And she said, last bit, you need to put me in the dream sitting on a windowsill. And so let's put our hands out to the front, come round to the side, and let's put Sophie in, sitting on a windowsill. It's a bit confusing, isn't it? But let's stir it up. So pick up your big spoon and let's stir up our dream. Stir it, stir it, stir it. And other foot, okay? Stir it, stir it, stir it. And we put it in a little jar. Let's come into jar pose. Put your hands behind you and lift your bottom up into a little jar. So they put it in and they screw the lid on very, very tight. Let's use both hands, that's it. And so the BFG says, Sophie, are you going to tell me what we're going to use this dream for? And so Sophie explains that they are going to go and visit the Queen of England in her bed in Buckingham Palace where she lives. And they are going to blow that dream through her window because she'll be able to to help the big nasty giants from eating any more human beings. And so the BFG isn't too sure, but he trusts Sophie by now, so that's what they decide to do. So they decide to go to England straight away, because it will take quite a long time to get to England, and by then the Queen should be asleep. So Sophie this time travels in one of the BFG's ears. Let's rub her ears again. That's it. And let's do our big giant strides again, because the BFG can run very, very fast. Standing up nice and tall, come forward and 1 foot, big step, and another one. Well done. And they get to London, and it's very, very busy. There's lots of traffic and there's lots of people as well, but they manage to stay out of everybody's sight, and they get to Buckingham Palace. So the BFG has to get over the big fence. There's a very, very big fence there. So we're going to climb over the fence, put 1 foot up. That's it. Put the other foot up, and then we're going to do a foot and a hand. That's it. Down, and then the other one. So let's climb up the fence. Well done. And they end up in the Queen's garden. Not every day you're in the Queen's garden, is it? So what the BFG does next is he finds out which one is the Queen's bedroom. So they tiptoe through the garden, do, 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 and they keep stopping and listening. Do, 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 do. And he keeps saying, no, not that one. And he keeps tiptoeing, tiptoeing. Nope, not that one either. And then eventually he says, Sophie, I think I found our bedroom. So he gets his big long trumpet out of his suitcase. So we're going to do suitcase pose. We're going to put our feet together, and we're going to bend over and put our head towards our feet. It doesn't need to get to your feet, but towards your feet. And then we're going to open up the suitcase. That's it. We're going to take our dream out the suitcase, and we're going to empty it into the big long trumpet. So he goes up to the Queen's bedroom. That's it. He just opens our window a wee bit, gets his trumpet. Now remember what we did? We took a big breath in, and then lovely. And then they wait. The BFG goes and hides in a wee bush. So let's go and hide in a bush. Stay on your knees and put your head down and your hands beside you. That's it. Tuck up in a wee ball. But Sophie sits on the Queen's windowsill. It's a bit strange, isn't it? We'll find out what's going on in a wee minute. So pretend you're sitting on the windowsill and put your hands up. That's it. Just pretend you're sitting. Don't want you falling over backwards. So in the morning, Sophie hears the Queen waking up, and the Queen is saying to her maid, oh, I had the most terrible dream last night. I imagined there was 9 grizzly giants eating all the human beings in the whole world. And her maid doesn't sound very convinced. She said, are you feeling okay this morning, Queen? And she said, oh, the worst thing was they were eating them every single night. And then I dreamed there was a little girl sitting on my windowsill. It's very, very strange indeed. So the maid comes and opens the curtains. Remember how we open the curtains? We bend over, put our hands together and open up, and the maid gets a big fright. That's right. So let's go and put our hands out to the side, because lo and behold, there's Sophie sitting there waiting. So the Queen, who keeps very calm in these sorts of situations, asks Sophie what she's doing there. And Sophie said, Queen, I've come to ask you for your help. You know that dream you had last night? And the Queen nods her head. She said, well, that is actually happening, because the dream that we've mixed up was all about those 9 giants running away every night, eating human beings, and the horrible things that they did. And then the dream finishes with the Queen finding Sophie on her windowsill, so that the Queen would believe what Sophie was saying. So Sophie said, me and my friend have come to seek your help. We want to stop these 9 giants eating everyone every single night. And so the Queen was a bit worried, because it does sound like a bit of a silly story, doesn't it? And then all of a sudden, her friend the BFG comes out of the bushes. So remember how tall the BFG is. We're going to do the big giant pose again, like this. That's it. And all of a sudden, the Queen starts to believe them. So the Queen says, well, why don't we talk about this over some breakfast? And so the BFG and Sophie are very pleased, because they're very, very hungry. So they go down and have breakfast. But the BFG is very, very tall, remember, so he has to crawl into the breakfast room. So let's come on to our hands and knees, that's it. And we're going to crawl around our mats, because he's not a normal size, remember, so he can't fit in the rooms just like we do. So they sit and have a wonderful breakfast. Let's sit with our legs crossed and have a wonderful breakfast. Put your elbows on the floor and eat your breakfast. And the BFG has 60 sausages, it has about 100 eggs, it has 500 bits of toast, because he needs a bigger breakfast than us, doesn't he? And then sit up, rub your tummy, that's it, and pat your head. And then change over. That's it, having a lovely feast. And so the Queen says, we must act at once. So what she does is she sends the head of the army and the head of the Air Force and lots of other different people, very important people, to catch these giants. So they all set off in their helicopters. So let's stand with our legs out wide, hands out, and let's do helicopter pose. And what they say is, BFG, you are going to take us to giant country and we will follow in all our helicopters. So they took 9 helicopters and followed the BFG. When they got to giant country, all the big 9 grizzly giants were lying sleeping. So let's lie down and pretend we're having a sleep. That's right. And so then what they did was they tied the giants up, didn't they? They tied them up in a tiny knot. So we are going to tie our hands up in a knot as well. Let's take your hands out to the side, cross them over and just curl them up as if you're tied in a knot. That's it. And then we're going to do that to our legs as well. Let's cross one leg over the other and try and tie it up. That's it. Now try and do it to the other side. Put the other arm on top. Roll your arms up in a knot and do the other side and wriggle about as well. That's it. So they get all the 9 giants tied up, they lift them up in the helicopter and they take them back to England. So let's do some more flying. Let's stand up, that's it, and do some flying. Lovely. And back in England, they have dug the biggest hole you have ever seen. It's about, I don't know, the depth of about 20 or 30 big giants, and it's very, very big as well. It's a really, really big hole indeed. And they lower all the giants into the hole. So let's bend our knees, come right down as if you're a giant going into the hole. So what happens then is they keep the giants there forever and ever, and guess what they feed them on instead of human beings? They feed them on the horrible snozzcumbers, remember? So let's do snozzcumber pose. Let's come forward, hands out, and lift your feet up. So the giants are not very pleased. And what about Sophie and the BFG? Well, the Queen builds the BFG a very, very special house in the grounds of Windsor Castle. It's a very big house because he's very tall, and he builds Sophie a little cottage right next door so that they can be friends forever, and the Queen takes care of Sophie and the BFG forever and ever for all their help. So that is the end of the story, and luckily it's a happy ending. All the big giants are in that hole getting fed their snozzcumbers every day, and Sophie and the BFG are very, very happy as well. So after all that adventure, we need to lie down on our mats and we're going to pretend that we're travelling in the BFG's ear, because remember Sophie sat in his ear for that part of the journey, and we're going to pretend that we're floating as the BFG runs. We're just passing over all the houses and rivers, schools and nurseries, and we see all the fields and all the trees, and we feel the wind in our ears as well. And it's so nice and safe up here. The BFG feels like he's floating while he's running, and it feels so nice. And it also feels really nice for Sophie and the BFG because they helped out the Queen of England, didn't they? They were really, really helpful and kind. And the nasty giants got what was coming to them, didn't they? So we're going to wriggle our fingers, wriggle our toes, and we're going to bend our knees, and we're going to roll onto our sides and sit up really nice and slowly and cross our legs. That's it, nice and slow. And we're going to put our hands at our heart and say our magic yoga word again, okay? Which is Namaste. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, Namaste. Well done. So we'll see what Om thought of all your yoga. What do you think? What was your favourite bit, Om? Oh, his favourite bit was when they were eating the breakfast and they ate all the sausages, all the eggs and everything like that. He loves the BFG, don't you? Especially the ending, the happy, happy ending. So thank you for coming and joining us on our yoga adventure. And you'll need to come back again for another yoga adventure, maybe right after this, or maybe on another day. But whenever it is, we'll see you then. See you later.